This is the set of the Stations of the Cross. I've been working on it for quite a long time. I've had the thought of doing the set of the Stations of the Cross for years, a three-dimensional set of Stations of the Cross that are absolutely independent, individual works of art. What I wanted to do was destroy, by creating these pieces, the cliche that the Stations of the Cross are just basically ornaments, little decorations, meaningless, sentimental pieces that hang on the wall in churches. I also wanted to do pieces that would be truly inspirational for people understanding and deepening their experience with Christianity and their faith. These works act independently as individual pieces of artwork. Each one of them was studied by myself to give the best representation I possibly could to the themes. The work, basically, the actual sculpting took me months and months. I've been working on this project for more than a year in the actual clay stage. Throughout the process, I've destroyed the ones I didn't like, focused on the ones I did, reworked the pieces. You're not going to see the ones I destroyed, obviously. You're going to be basically seeing the ones that I felt do the greatest justice to the specific images. What I wanted here is to create a sculpture garden of the Stations of the Cross and to create works of art that really, truly bring as much dignity to these representations as possible. This is a completed clay version of the Station number 6, Saint Veronica. And this is one of the more interesting works of art within the set. I decided not to do the very traditional Saint Veronica actual sculpture of the saint. Instead, I decided to actually focus on the major important object within this station, which is the cloth with Christ's image on it. I envisioned when I created this piece that perhaps it's moments after Saint Veronica encountered Christ, and this is draped very reverently on a wall here. And what this is too is it heightens the viewer's reality because it's a very realistically depicted cross. And it's kind of, without having actually Christ depicted, but just having his image very, very subtly work within the cloth here, shows the mystery, and it becomes more of a spiritual encounter, I believe. The piece from a distance will just look like a cloth, and this piece, when one comes up to it, approaches it, then they understand the meaning of the artwork with the image of Christ. I decided to do Christ's face very, very simply because I didn't want it to be a portrait of Christ as much as just an image pulled from it. I used the shroud of Turin on the piece, the idea of the beard and a very simple face as part of my role model. So from a distance it will look like Christ for sure. The piece also, although it is primarily frontal, if you can see the back, no matter what area that the people approach this piece, it has something. This is a teaser, I kind of consider it. If you're approaching it from the other side, what is this piece of drapery? Is this actually even a sculpture? And it looks real too. When it's bronze, the texture will really reinforce the cloth. And what I'm doing is I'm merging the lines of reality with an artwork with this here. And so, although it's a simple piece, I find that Station number 6 is very, very thought-provoking. It has some mysticism about it, achieved simply by the absence of the actual figure of Saint Veronica and Jesus. It almost reinforces what we want to, and that is this cloth with Christ's image on it. The 15th station, or the Resurrection, Here I had an opportunity to create a risen Christ that for literally years I was thinking about creating. The initial time I did the drawing was 2 years ago, and I finally had the opportunity to actually create this very triumphant, dynamic depiction of Christ. One of the things that I notice about the depictions of the risen Christ that I avoided on this piece was to create a lily-wimpy Jesus. You notice his hands. I feel that one of the most exciting things about this piece is the gesture, which instead of going like this with the kind of a counterposture with limp hands, there's almost fire of electricity within his gesture, with his hands expressing and forcing, going to his fingertips. So it's a very triumphant, strong, empowering risen Christ. The gaze is frontal, looking confident, looking very, very triumphant and glorious on this piece here. I also have very, very prominently the cross created out of this rough stone earth, which suggests also the crucifixion. And you see almost like a crack, the crucifixion breaks up where this risen Christ is emerging from. I find this piece very, very exciting, and it's a great piece to have as the last station for the set. Station number 10 is here. What I wanted to do was another focal point of the Christ figure. I wanted to focus on what is actually important going on here. Instead of doing the soldiers or the people stripping Christ of his clothing, I just have Christ's body being revealed and the drapery is parting. So it becomes, although it becomes abstract in its concept and its approach, it becomes very, very realistic with the study of the actual human form here, Christ's body. And I wanted to actually show here Christ's body and the important symbolic, significant importance of it. And so therefore I spent a lot of attention getting the drapery, getting the anatomy perfect, the drapery parting to see a very, very anatomical figure here. Even the back, even though you're not supposed to look at the back, it's meant to be looked at the front. The back also has the anatomy very profound and the shoulders very detailed. It's expressive. It's, again, mysterious. Not showing Christ's eyes, having it half veiled, really doesn't spoon feed the viewer. The viewer has to complete the picture of Christ on his own there. It also brings some mystery to the piece there. It's beautiful. It's almost life-size. And you can see now what I'm doing with the whole project of the Stations of the Cross. I'm taking each one as an individual work of artwork. This one's almost life-size. Others will be small. Others will have multiple figures in. What this piece does, even though it stands on its own, it's considered work throughout the whole sculptural garden process of the Stations of the Cross.